you searching for answers into your very existence and the universe you live in? How does healing work? And how can we heal ourselves using only our minds? Are we living in a simulated matrix? Or is this the only real reality in existence? Is spirituality a construct, a religious ideology, or does it have a very real place in our modern society? You're about to come on a journey with Aaron Ayden to discover what this reality really means and its intrinsic purposes for our individual existence. Hold on to your seats, because we're about to begin. Good evening. Hello. So Joe Biden is, he's been on the forefront of a lot of discussions over the last few weeks, especially since he took office. And he has set so far a record number of executive orders, over 50, the majority of which have been reversals of Donald Trump's policies over the last 4 years. But there's one very interesting executive order that we're expecting over the next couple of weeks or even couple of months, is that Joe Biden is moving to close Guantanamo Bay's infamous military prison in weeks. This is according to White House officials. So this would signal a new effort to remove what human rights advocates have called a stain on America's global image. So we are undertaking an NSC process to assess the current state of play that the Biden administration has inherited from the previous administration, in line with our broader goal of closing Guantanamo. National Security Council spokeswoman Emily Horn told the Sun News. She also said the NSC will work closely with the Departments of Defense, State, and Justice to make progress towards closing the Guantanamo Bay facility, and also in close consultation with Congress. So far, a lot of people have been saying that Joe Biden is bad for the US. Joe Biden is evil. Joe Biden is going to be a disaster for American politics and for the American people. But is Joe Biden really all that bad? He's been targeted, I guess, for putting blocks on the Keystone Pipeline, which actually was damaging native land. It was going straight through native property and damaging the people who relied on the land that the Keystone Pipeline was damaging. So, of course, all these billionaires and rich tycoons of the world are going to be targeting Joe Biden for closing this or for preventing the Keystone Pipeline from just going straight ahead. And of course, it's affecting jobs and it's affecting, employment in the US, which is going to, if you're going to stop a major pipeline like the Keystone Pipeline project, it's going to affect jobs. But you also have to look at the more localized impact of things like this. It was impacting native peoples. Their land was being destroyed to put in this pipeline. And of course, it's always a disaster when people lose their jobs or people get made redundant or people can't earn their money, but it's looking at the longer term effects of this. And speaking of the longer term effects, now the Republicans, they put forward a $600 billion kind of relief budget for people on welfare or on state benefits. But Joe Biden has put forward a £1.9 trillion plan. Now, this will see job seekers, they will get a $400 a week, up on their unemployment checks until the end of September, which is an extra $100 bump from what they get now, which was passed at the end of December last year. And the president's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package seeks to extend enhanced unemployment benefits until the end of September and increase the weekly federal bonus to 400 instead of the current 300. This is down from the 600 per week extended in the CARES Act on top of unemployment checks issued by the state. So far, Joe Biden's really moving to help the American people as much as he can. And he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said if he had to make a choice between helping the American people now and making sacrifices in his plans in order to, for the American people to see a drawn out negotiation process in the Senate, he said, well, it would be an easy choice. He would help the American people now. All those who are hurting now, he would rather help them straight away than making them wait months and months and months to get help that they desperately need right now. So far, we're seeing an actually very proactive and positive presidency here with Joe Biden. And I want to go through a few of his executive orders because there's some very interesting ones there. Now, he's been kind of attacked for lifting some of the immigration policies, but one of them that he has reversed from Trump's presidency. Now, he's extended the United States refugee admission program and rescinds Trump's policies that limited refugee admissions and required additional vetting. Okay. So, but he is now allowing more people, more refugees to go to the US essentially for protection. And he's also revoked Trump's order justifying the separation of families at the border and creates a task force that recommends steps to Biden to reunite separated families. Now, if a family was caught on the Mexican border and they were coming through, from Mexico into the United States, the family would be separated. The children would get separated from the parents, which for any child in that situation is going to be traumatic. But what Biden is saying is actually, no, do you know what? We're not going to separate families. Maybe they're crossing illegally. That's fair enough. We got to do something about that, but we're not going to separate families. Now, I can't see any way that you can argue this aspect of the Biden presidency so far is negative or bad, because he is looking out for the interests of the everyday person as opposed to just the rich. And he has also he aims to address the economic and political causes of migration. And this works with organizations to provide protections to asylum seekers and ensures Central American asylum seekers have legal access to the United States, and rescinds Trump's administration policy and guidelines, and also initiates a review of the policies that have effectively closed the US border to asylum seekers. Now, in the UK, we have this same problem with asylum seekers. Well, in the UK, it's kind of the opposite. We have more asylum seekers in the UK, I believe, than other EU nations. Whereas the Trump administration took a very stern approach to immigration and to asylum seekers and said, well, no, we're not going to let them in. And again, this was partly due to security risks, mainly his limits or ban even on people coming from Muslim countries or largely Muslim countries. But is it really a bad thing to allow more asylum seekers into the country? Is it such a bad thing to say, actually, do you know what? If you need help, we are going to be here. We are, the US is a powerhouse. The US is this symbol of hope and freedom and democracy. Is that image of power, freedom, and democracy being damaged by the Biden presidency? Or is he actually strengthening that message of the American dream? So far, it's looking like, yes, he is actually strengthening the American dream, or the image of the American dream. Because he's also ensuring that LGBT refugees and asylum seekers have the equal access to protections. Now, this requires the Department of State to lead a standing group to respond quickly to international LGBT human rights abuses and to report annually to Congress on global LGBT abuses, directs agencies to review Trump administration policies, and rescinds those that are inconsistent with this memo within 100 days. So far, Biden has undone so many of former President Trump's policies in his executive orders. And he's also now reversed Trump's policy regarding transgender military personnel, which effectively allows any trans person to become part of the military once again. Now, again, I cannot see how any of this is negative. The news, especially if you watch the news, you will see so many attacks on Joe Biden. And again, we saw this, all throughout the Trump presidency. Trump was attacked at every single turn, and now it's switched onto Biden. Biden is now right in front of us, and we're all wanting to attack him. We're wanting to find something negative, something bad about Joe Biden. And there is a lot of dirt there. There is. All we had to do is look into a little bit of Hunter Biden and the claims there. But for now, we're just going to focus on Joe Biden, not his family, but Joe Biden himself. And if we're talking about Joe Biden, it's very hard to skip over the Trump impeachment because this has kind of overshadowed Biden's presidency so far. And so Trump is being impeached for effectively inciting a riot at the Capitol building. But did Donald Trump actually incite a riot? Okay, so before at the rally that everyone was at before the Capitol, right, the rally that Donald Trump was talking at, he said, we're going to walk down to the Capitol building and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congresswomen and congressmen and women. Yes, so I'll start that one again. Now it's up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. So to me, that's not really saying, let's go and have a riot, He's not predicting a riot. What he's kind of saying is, well, now it's up to the Congress to decide whether or not we're going to stand for this. He was adamant that the votes were doctored or that the counts were off, and he is there saying, well, now we got to rely on the congresswomen and congressmen and the Senate to do right by our democracy and to keep hold of our democracy the way it is. And he's, been heavily attacked, saying that he directly incited a riot. And this is why he's now being impeached. And the other thing is that he is being impeached as a former president, which usually that shouldn't happen. Usually it's only sitting presidents that can be impeached. So it's very strange that they are still going ahead with this impeachment trial, given that he is no longer a sitting president. And he also said, "We will fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." This is what he told his supporters just before the Capitol storm, if you like. And there's a lot of accounts of racism that led up, through the Trump administration, leading on to the Capitol riots, which I think are condemnable no matter how you look at it, given some of the things that were said, namely, hanging Mike Pence was an extreme reaction. I think it's safe to say an extreme reaction to any speech, regardless of what Trump said. But the fact is, did Trump really say, well, let's go and riot? Was he actually intending that to happen? Or was that just a consequence of perhaps his loose wording? We're going to go down to the Capitol building. Could he have maybe worded that a little bit better or different? Was his wording the cause of the riots, as opposed to him directly inciting them? Was it just his wording that was taken the wrong way by the American people? But then it does call into question people's, I guess, sense of common sense. If you hear a president, especially a sitting president, saying, well, we're going to storm down to the Capitol building, should common sense really knock in and say, okay, well, he's a sitting president. He's not going to tell us to go and riot, on a government building and to cause havoc. And it really does call into question people's common sense in these situations, because we can sit here and say, well, they wouldn't have done it if Trump didn't say to storm down there. But then does Trump say that let's go to the Capitol building? It's not really saying, well, let's go and riot. It's just saying, well, we're going to stand there in solidarity together. and we're gonna, pray and hope that the Congress and the Senate does what we need them to do. And to me, that doesn't it really does not say, and I can't find anything to really suggest that Trump was directly saying, well, let's go and riot. There may be links and there may have been hints here and there. But again, it just, for me, looking at this, especially from, from a completely different country, a different democracy altogether, it really does just question our common sense. Because were this to happen in the UK, I'm pretty sure that most of the country wouldn't take that as, say if Boris Johnson said, well, let's go and march down to Buckingham Palace. We wouldn't take that into our own hands and start climbing the walls of Buckingham Palace and start rioting in the house of the monarch. So it really does just question that common sense. And when you're listening to a speech, especially as a politician, most of us, we listen to politicians and we take it as a pinch of salt. We don't take everything they say literal, because we know that they will say whatever they need to save themselves. We know that politicians are dirty. Politicians are rarely honest. And history will repeat this. We can't. We've learned that we can't trust politicians to do exactly what they say. So why do we listen to a politician, or why would we listen to a politician when they tell us to do something? But again, and that's going into another aspect of politics, especially this modern age. Is politics kind of broken? Do we need a revival of the political system? Do we need a change up of the political system? Because right now, so many people around the world are trying to, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told how to live. And it's that question of, is it really telling you how to live, or is it trying to just do the collective good so that things can move forward a little bit faster? But that's a conversation for a little bit later. Right now, though, I want to go through a few more of Biden's reversal executive orders that are reversing Donald Trump's policies. And one of them was that he reinstated COVID-19 travel restrictions for individuals traveling to the United States from the Schengen area in China, and also the United Kingdom, Ireland, and South Africa. And again, Donald Trump was delayed in his reaction to COVID. He was very, very delayed, which could arguably, now this is going into a different topic here just for a second. There are factions of society that say that COVID-19 isn't a disease that is as bad as the media are having us believe, or even the governments are having us believe. And then other factions are saying that actually they're undercounting COVID deaths, they're undercounting infections, and actually they need to be doubling up on their counts. And President Trump was almost against the COVID reactions. He was kind of against it. He was saying, "Well, we don't need to prepare. We've got it. We'll be okay." And Joe Biden's come straight in and said, "Actually, no. Do you know what? You weren't serving the country. Let's undo everything you've just done, and let's reinstate some of those travel restrictions," which I think is the best move given the situation, whether you believe COVID is real, whether you believe it's not. I'm not going to share my beliefs on it, but personally, I do think there is something going on behind the scenes that maybe we're not too sure about. And I'm not going to say whether, COVID is real or whether it's not. I do think there is a virus. I'm not sure whether it is as bad as they say. But then how can we really know? How can we really know how bad it really is? So the fact is, we have to find a way to just get on with it and trust what we're being told to some extent. And that's not to just say, believe everything you're told. Question things, sure. But to this extent, when it comes to lockdowns, when it comes to travel restrictions or bans, we do kind of have to listen to it to an extent. And whether you agree with a lockdown, and there's medical research out there to suggest that lockdowns are not actually scientifically kind of proven in this situation. And even there's evidence to say masks aren't that effective. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is, when there is somebody in power who is trying to do whatever they can or whatever they believe is going to be the right thing to protect people and lives, we do kind of have to find a way to trust that, even if we don't quite agree with it. But in the sense of Joe Biden's presidency so far, he has definitely outdone anyone before him with over 50 executive orders undoing everything that Trump has done. But he also has stopped the United States withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Um, so perhaps that would be a good thing for the US, as well as rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, a process that would take about 30 days. But he has also cancelled the Keystone XL pipeline and directed agencies to review and reverse more than 100 Trump actions on the environment. And given that the US is such a big contributor to environmental damage and human kind of influence climate change, it's definitely not a bad thing that Biden is seriously looking into what Donald Trump has done in the sense of climate. And it's very clear that Joe Biden does care about the climate, does care about the environment, and does care about natives and native land. And this is evident in his halting of the Keystone Pipeline, which was doing so much damage to native land, but also to the US's ecological impact and its footprint on the global climate. And I'm just looking through his list of executive orders, and it's astonishing to see how much he has done. He's also gone as far as to halt the construction of the border wall by terminating the national emergency declaration used to fund it. So he's now stopped Donald Trump's building of the Mexican wall. And again, he is working to not just unite the American people here, but uniting the whole of the American continent, which includes South America, Central America, and of course the United States and Canada. So Joe Biden so far is really trying to unite everyone that he can. Um, he's trying to do what he can to make things work smoothly, because they've been up at arms. We've been the whole planet's been divided, and under Trump's presidency, there was a big divide in the people, and not just the American people. We found that Donald Trump's actions, his speeches, were affecting the entire planet, and political systems in other countries were being influenced by Donald Trump's speeches, by his actions, by the laws that he was passing. So the question comes back to, is Joe Biden an American hero, or is he going to be a disaster? Are there things that are coming out about Joe Biden in the next few weeks that we can't quite foresee that are going to cause disaster in the US? And there's even been speculation that Joe Biden will be a 1-year president, as new evidence, with Hunter Biden and his Russian collusion, is kind of starting to come out and trickle down the pipeline. So, are we about to see something big happen in the US? Are we about to see a current president sitting collapse? And he is the oldest president by far. He is the oldest president to ever sit in the White House. But will he be there very, very long? And I don't mean because of his health. And that's been another speculation. Is Joe Biden actually medically fit to serve as president? There's been so many times where he's slipped up and he's said the wrong things, or he's minced his words. And he also seems to have an obsession with intercourse. He went to talk about financial intercourse, and then Donald Trump not having enough intercourse with the American people. And he seems to just have a bit of an obsession with the word intercourse. And you can see from the way he does seem a little bit frail, and he does seem a little bit confused at times. But again, is this just a normal pressure of the presidency and of sitting in the White House? As I'm sure, running an entire country like the US would be stressful for anyone, no matter how young or old you are. But the question will always come back to, at least for now, is Joe Biden a disaster or a hero? I guess this is a question that we will find the answer to over the next year or so, but we're not really going to know until something happens or somebody slips up. But I want to circle back to the Donald Trump impeachment for a moment, because Donald Trump is currently being impeached. However, Lindsey Graham has said that the Trump's impeachment trial will destroy the presidency and put future leaders at risk. The Republican senator told Fox News that the trial will make history for the rest of the time America exists. Now, this is because Donald Trump is being impeached, which is an act of law that is only usually usable against a current sitting president. And Lindsey Graham went on to say what Democrats have done is basically declare war on the presidency itself. The impeachment in the House took place without a hearing, without one witness being called, and without a lawyer for the president of the United States. And you can't get a traffic ticket based on the procedures they used to impeach President Trump. Um, he said it would destroy the presidency itself. He went on to say, I know you hate Trump, but please pull back before we set in motion the destruction of the presidency by never ending impeachments based on lack of due process and political retribution as the motive. You're about to set in motion a historical precedent that will put at risk every future president. We're doing a lot of damage to the country because people hate Trump. Knock it off. The impeachment trial will begin in the Senate. I believe it began today. And it's the first ever impeachment of a former president. And as I said, this is usually only something that can be done to a current sitting president. So the fact that they are impeaching a former president does set some doubt in the American political system. How can you impeach a former president? But they're no longer in the White House purely because of crimes that they may or may not have committed whilst they were sitting in office. Should this impeachment have been set in motion before? Should they have moved to impeach Trump earlier on, or just leave it as it was? Or perhaps maybe not impeachment, but still take legal action, but just not impeaching Trump? Have they just set in motion something that will really damage the American political system for many years to come? He's branded the impeachment as a partisan farce. And he said he does not believe it's possible for Trump to be convicted. 45 Republicans have said it's not even a legitimate proceeding, so it's really over before it starts. As far as witnesses, according to Rand Paul, he says, "I think it's unlikely to be witnesses. If they do want witnesses, there's going to be so much evidence that the president had nothing to do with this." And he believes the proceedings are unconstitutional. And I would agree with that. I would agree that it's unconstitutional to impeach a former president. And again, this is something that is normally only an option for a current sitting president. So the question is again, is Joe Biden moving through a democracy that's about to collapse? Is he currently taking over a democracy that is almost on its knees and on a way to break down? Are they breaking down the American political system, or is it about to rebuild like never before? And we're starting to see evidence that Joe Biden is actually a good guy who's trying to do as much as he can for the American people. Again, taking it back to his $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package, increasing the weekly federal bonus to $400 instead of $300 that is currently being given to the American people on welfare. And Biden and Kamala Harris was talking not too long ago about a potential Medicare for all. Medication or medical treatment should be available for all, as we enjoy this on the NHS in the United Kingdom. We enjoy, not whether you're working or whether you're unemployed, you still have access to medical care should you need it. Whereas in America, you still need to have some kind of insurance, or you have access to the federally funded healthcare. But should this be available to all, regardless whether you're working or not? Should you be allowed, or should you be able to access medication or medical intervention, whether you have insurance or not in the US? I think it's one of those difficult questions to answer, really, because you have the economy that has kind of been built on this sense that you have insurance, you have medical insurance to get your medical treatment. And if you don't have your medical insurance, well, you're kind of screwed in a way. And the American system is kind of built on this: pay for it before you get it, and then when you get it, pay a little bit more. If you ever go to America, you're kind of the tips. It's a common courtesy to tip almost everyone, at least from an outsider point of view. Whereas then you come to the places like the UK or Europe, where maybe tipping isn't so much of a thing. It's one of those. Maybe I just speak for the UK here. The UK is a place where you're very unlikely to get tipped unless you have very, very nice customers or you do a very, very good job. Purely because the British mindset is we don't want to part with our money, which in a sense can be selfish. But that's kind of built in; it's hardwired into the British mind. Whereas America, it is kind of that common courtesy to tip. So money in the US works very, very differently. Obviously, it works the same as everywhere else, but the mindset of America is very set in stone. So would it actually be an option, and a positive option, to provide Medicare for everyone in the United States? Or should that system be kept the way it always has been, with the medical insurance and almost kind of limited access to medical care? And again, I guess that's a system that will come into question over the next couple of years. But for now, I guess it's down to speculation as to whether we think the American political system is about to break, whether it already has broken, or whether it's just reshaping and reshuffling the way that it does function and the way that it will function for years to come. So, my personal opinion on Joe Biden is maybe he's good, maybe he's bad, maybe there's something in the middle where we can agree, but still not quite agree with everything he does. Because there does seem to be a lot of evidence coming out now, purely in the things that he's doing and the actions that he's taking, the executive orders that he's signing, and the work that he's currently doing from the Oval Office, that suggests he's not all bad. Although there may be a lot of dirt to dig up on his past. But that also raises the question of, if it happened in the past, should it still be brought up now during his presidency? Is it crucial to the presidency to bring this up? If Joe Biden did have anything to do with Hunter Biden's kind of cover-ups with Russia and the Ukraine, should this be brought up now? Or should this be laid to rest behind the scenes? Or should Mr. Biden take responsibility for his past actions and own up to them, and take responsibility right now whilst he is presidency, even if that means giving up his seat in the White House? But we can pick anyone's past. We can pick at anyone's past, and destroy lives. And people's lives have really been destroyed by things from the past being brought up. So it calls into question again, with our common sense: is it really um, the done thing, as it were, to bring up somebody's past for whatever reason? Should the past be kept in the past? Or when you are a world leader like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or even people such as David Cameron, where something quite graphic came out about him when he was in office in the UK. But should these things really be brought up, or should they be left in the past? Because we none of us like having things brought up from the past. None of us like having our dirt and our history being brought up in front of us, especially when it's used in really not nice ways to destroy somebody's life. Is there a line in the sand that we should be drawing when it comes to bringing up people's pasts? Or is it the case that if you are a world leader, you should always expect everything you've ever done or ever said to come straight back at you? Is this the way the world's working? Is this the way that we're going? Is bringing up people's past just for something to happen, for some outcome, for whatever reason that we have in the moment? And it really does, for me, call into question our common sense and our morality as a society. Is our morality so low that we have no problem destroying somebody's life or somebody's career because of things that they did maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago? And is it right to do so? I guess there's a question that we have to answer individually, and of our own. We have to decide for ourselves whether it's right or wrong to do something in the moment. So I want to leave you with the question today. If you think about everything you've done in your entire life, would you be proud of everything that you've done, or would there be things that you would change? And when you think of this, just look at the wider picture, the global image as it is right now in this moment, this day. There are people in power in this world who maybe they did bad things in the past, maybe they said bad things in the past. And again, we had Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. Jeremy Corbyn had a lot of stuff being brought up on him, mainly the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, when he didn't condemn them. But again, does that make Jeremy Corbyn a bad person for having previous links to the IRA or for not condemning them? And arguably, yes, you could say that makes him a bad person because that's a condemnable act for sure. But still, does it make him a bad person because he refused to condemn a bad person, or because he used to have ties to bad people? And bring the question. I'd like to bring the question right back again to, if you have things in your past that you're not proud of, or things in your past that you would like to change, would it be right for somebody else to bring those up in front of you or to the rest of the world? And would it be moral? I'll leave you with that one. But thank you for tuning in with me for some in conversation. Joe Biden, hero or disaster? I think somewhere in between. I don't think he's a hero. I don't think he's a disaster. I think we may see a bit of both during the next few years. But hey, only time will tell. But check in the comments and let me know whether you think Joe Biden is a hero or a disaster to the US economy.